Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. I'm at the Bowers & Wilkins factory in Worthing, United Kingdom, and I'm standing beside the Philips 903 OLED TV from TP Vision, the company who is responsible for the development of Philips branded televisions in the UK and Europe. Now the big story is that the company has partnered up with this high-end audio manufacturer Bowers & Wilkins to update the sound system on the Philips 903 OLED television. And this, I have to stress, is an early prototype preview sample. This is not a final product, but Bowers & Wilkins and also TP Vision have been kind enough to invite me to have an early listen to the sound quality of this product and also talk to some key personnel from Bowers & Wilkins with regards to their involvement in this project.
Hi, my name is Andy Kerr. I'm a Director of Product Marketing Communications for Bowers & Wilkins. If you look at how we approach loudspeaker design, we have very specific philosophies which we've had since the inception of the company. So we pursue a specific approach in terms of design and engineering. We try and do as much as we possibly can ourselves. We're very interested in full control over process. We invest a lot of time and money and effort into our own research and development. We have our own dedicated research and development facility. So you approach any project in pretty much the same way. You apply some of the consistent and similar philosophies that we've had all the way through. So first and foremost, you'd argue that the bits that make the most consistent difference to the performance of a product are the bits that move the air, the transducers. So the company's historically focused a lot on trying to optimize drive units, develop its own drive units. We have some very specific drive unit technology that we're rightly renowned for, and we take a lot of time and trouble developing those. So we're looking at that. And any project we approach, that would be one of the first questions we could ask. How much of our own drive unit philosophy and DNA could we get into that project? One of the other most important considerations is, of course, the cabinet, is the construction, the housing of the thing. So again, some of the choices that you can make are constrained because you have a limited amount of space or a limited amount of budget, or perhaps a combination of those two things, but you still try and approach it from the same perspective of, let's try and optimize the construction, let's try and minimize the effect of the cabinet so that you can get the maximum amount of output and energy into the room from the transducers themselves. They're fundamentally the most important thing. I think the third thing that we always consistently try and look for in certainly passive loudspeaker design, and it still translates through into other products as well, is what goes into the system should be what comes out to the system as far as you possibly can. So it's trying to minimize any unnecessary complexities within the signal path, trying to maximize the quality of the componentry within the signal path to try and get the cleanest, most undiluted version of the original signal back into the room. So I think we've got strong fundamental principles, and once you've got those in place, you can apply them everywhere. So people. It's the same people responsible for acoustic engineering and development of flagship loudspeakers are responsible for everything else we do, including Philips TV Sound. The same philosophy of approach in terms of cabinet and construction and principles behind reducing resonance, that's consistent as well. That remains the same again, whether you're talking about a flagship loudspeaker or Philips TV Sound. And even the principles behind drive unit design, transducer design. So there are material choices that differ, but fundamentally the principles are exactly the same. What we try to do in the main loudspeaker, we try and carry those things through to every other project, including Philips TV.
Hi, I'm Matthew James from Bowers & Wilkins. I'm a lead development engineer. It's a considerable challenge to sort of take a high-end speaker of this size into a TV, but we wanted to use the same principles at Bowers to actually lift understanding and technologies from mechanical design and acoustic design. The essence of what we're looking for is true sound, whether it's in a loudspeaker or whether we translate that down into TV audio. So the high-frequency speaker was already located in a good position in an array across the front, forward-firing to any listener. What we then attempted to do was to try and put our understanding of high-frequency sound into a mechanical design that would reduce any sort of horn loading or coloration to the sound, but also enabling it to actually sound like it's coming from outside of the TV. Following that, the mid-range is the next most important aspect of the TV sound, and we spent an extensive amount of time looking at how we could re-engineer the racetrack speaker due to the space constraints we were operating within, and how to reproduce clean, lower distortion sound output. The high-frequency speaker uses a 19mm titanium dome. We selected this component mainly because of its very good off-axis dispersion, so we could get the sound, radiating outside of the usual constraints of a TV. The mid-range is a glass fiber cone, which has been stiffened in a way to lower the modal breakup of the actual cone surface to reduce the distortion. Both mid-range and high frequencies use neodymium motor systems, and they're all sat within a re-engineered and designed enclosure with improved cabinet strength and stiffness. And the last part of the system is the subwoofer enclosure on the rear. We've optimized the driver for improved linearity and low frequency output. We've also improved the enclosure by adding new bracing and stiffening techniques we've learnt from usual core loudspeaker designs, and also improved the performance of the passive radiator panels which run alongside the sub. Throughout this project, we've been collaborating with Philips TV to maximise the potential TV audio. There's been lots of travelling, many miles, working with a lot of really good guys from every aspect of mechanical design, tuning. We've tailored all of the standard modes that will be in the TV, from original, music, movie, game mode. We've individually set what Bowers and also Philips TV feel we should get as a performance standpoint from these different modes. Whether it would be normal TV viewing on broadcast signal, movie playback, even game console playing with game mode. So we've tried to optimize each of these modes for the specific characteristic of the content you're using at that time. It's been a huge effort from everyone, and I think we're all very pleased with the outcome. And hopefully it's beginning of things to come.
So this is an OLED 903. It's available in 2 screen sizes. The model you're looking at here is the 65-inch version. It also comes in a 55-inch size. As Matt described earlier on, it's essentially a 2.1 system. So there are 2 forward-firing arrays, mid-range and high frequency, and they're arranged at the front of the panel just here. So you've got that racetrack style drive unit with the 19mm titanium dome tweeter alongside it, and they're actually inboard of the legs at the lower portion but firing forward into the room. And then the subwoofer low frequency section is on the back of the cabinet on the reverse side of the panel. It's just a 2.1. There isn't any attempt to kind of replicate artificial surround sound or feed in any of the latest generation of virtual surround or height augmented kind of surround processing modes. The focus here is on premium stereo sound. So intent is to try and provide maximum clarity, maximum intelligibility, improve the sense of punch and drive and dynamism with every bit of content that you watch. And also give you the opportunity to listen louder if you want to without distortion. So in the process of the development in terms of the tuning work that Matt and the guys did as a team working together, things to understand about this is if you think about the relative position of the speakers relative to the screen, clearly they're quite low down. Now that's just a fundamental constraint of any television set. I mean, nobody would be prepared to have speakers right in the middle of the screen. It would somewhat ruin the experience. So the issue that you've got there is there's a relatively substantial difference between what we would refer to as the acoustic centre, which is where the loudspeakers are, and the viewing centre, which is up there, the centre of the screen. So the work that's been done is to try and essentially remove the sound, if you like, from the constraint of its physical position and try and free it, try and get it out of the enclosure, out of the cabinet and up into the room, out into free space, and try and lift it up relative to what you're seeing on the screen as well. Now, when you think about that, that's hugely important. I mean, just as an obvious example, if you placed a face, you can see a face in the screen right there. Typically, of course, if the sound's quite disconnected from where that comes from, you get that obvious sense of kind of a disconnected lip sync and that sense of it being somewhat artificial as an experience. By lifting it up, you get a much more concrete and real sense of somebody speaking to you from the centre of the screen. Now, that's a good start. But moving on from there, there's just the straightforward thing of intelligibility, about absolute clarity. So the work again that was done, again, Matt touched on it earlier on about trying to get the drive units close to the front of the cabinet is fundamental to the outcome because you're trying to improve overall clarity and overall dispersion into free space. So if you imagine the drive unit sitting down a tube, if you like, down a tunnel, inevitably what you'd get is kind of that effect where things sounded more kind of cupped and coloured. So getting them closer to the front of the enclosure is great because it essentially frees them a lot more from what's going on. At the same time, you have to do a lot of work to try and control unwanted resonances and vibrations moving through the whole assembly. It's no good if the drive units are great, but if you turn the system up, then the whole thing starts vibrating and flapping around and creating unwanted sounds, which again would impact on the clarity and the overall enjoyment and realism of the experience. So a lot of work done on carefully positioning the drive units within their own enclosures, then carefully positioning and fixing those enclosures into the structure of the TV set itself to try and minimise the effect of unwanted resonances and vibrations moving through the system. We talked about how we're trying to replicate the sound experience of the larger loudspeaker into a stereo TV set, and clearly some of the issues there that we have to do with the sound is appearing to be emanating from one point source in the room, from between the two speakers that are fairly closely spaced together, rather than from more widely spaced stereo speakers. So again, a lot of the work that's gone into both the tuning and engineering of the loudspeakers and then the equalisation afterwards in the system is to try and avoid some of that effect. So not just from the point of view of sound going upwards, but also the sense of there being more of a sound stage. Now in hi-fi terminology, what that means is the illusion that there's a stage between the speakers where you might have depth and where you might have height and where you might have width. So for example, we're very pleased with the sense of particularly depth, where you get the idea that sounds can be further away from behind the screen than they actually are, as far as your eye is perceiving them. Which is great because people use that quite a lot in sound mixes, particularly in films. Another good example would be height. For example, when the rain comes down from above you and you get a sense of sound appearing to appear from above you and starting to come down into the sound field. And again, the set does a very good job of delivering that. And then probably the most interesting thing is width. One of the things we do, which might seem odd or counterintuitive when we do some initial demonstrations to this, is we actually play just a piece of stereo music through it, just as a standard, literally just a CD. Into it, which I know seems odd because that's probably not what you buy a TV for, but the powerful or exciting thing about how the product performs is it kind of replicates the feel and the experience of listening to a small pair of stereo speakers, and considering, as I said earlier on, where the drive units are located within the cabinet, that's a pretty remarkable achievement. Probably the most exciting thing about this is to understand that this is just the first of our collaborations with Philips TV, and there'll be a lot more to come in future. This is very much a high-performance premium TV. It's a stereo product. There are sound modes to allow you to optimize and achieve the best available results with the different programming content that you might want to watch, whether it's gaming or news or sport or music or movie. But fundamentally, it's a stereo TV set. So the exciting thing from our perspective is where this will lead us in future with some of the other projects that we are already beginning to embark upon in our partnership with Philips TV. We think in future we could be doing considerably more in terms of sound performance.
So while I was actually in this factory, I was given a quick demonstration of the sound quality of this Philips 903 OLED, and this is the best sounding sound system I've heard from a TV so far. Obviously, it can't actually beat a dedicated soundbar or a home theater system, but the sound that emanates from the television is extremely impressive. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it is the most impressive sounding television I've heard across my years of reviewing television. And the key is the base extension that the engineers have actually been able to get into this television, and also in terms of the audio resolution, in terms of clarity, and in particular imaging and soundstage as well. Like objects that are on screen, they don't actually sound like they are coming from the speaker at the bottom of the screen, but they are actually sounding as if they are actually coming from discrete locations on the screen itself. And I would go so far as to say that the sound was so impressive, because I'm a TV guy, so the best analogy I can actually use is like going from SD to HD. It just sounded clearer. There's just more detail in it. You can actually hear distinct noises throughout, like loud explosions in terms of the preservation of the detail, the mid-range, and also the bass. Everything just works in harmony to present this really impressive soundstage. And when I was given the demonstration, the volume was put up to 45, and I did not have a chance to listen at low volume, but the engineers at Bowers & Wilkins reassure me that there is a consistent level of performance for this television regardless of the volume level that you try to pump through the television. But yes, I'm extremely excited about the collaboration between TP Vision and also Bowers & Wilkins, and at first listen, the sound output is extremely impressive. Now I've listened to some really quite impressive sound on premium television, such as the LG Signature series, the Sony Acoustic Surface Technology series, but none can actually match the audio resolution and also the bass extension. When I close my eyes when listening to the sound coming out from this television, it's as if I was listening to a pair of really high quality stereo speakers rather than a distinct TV cabinet sound. And I think that's the key, that Bowers & Wilkins have managed to take their expertise in making loudspeakers using cabinets and squeeze into a wafer-thin OLED television, obviously with superb picture as well in terms of the true blacks, wide viewing angles and vibrant colors, to give us this sound solution that, again, I'm totally blown away. And this is only the start. Bowers & Wilkins and TP Vision, they are going to work together to develop more future products, and I look forward to seeing what they have to bring to the TV market in terms of the sound solution. This is Vincent Teo here, reporting from the Bowers & Wilkins factory in Worthing, Sussex. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.